Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Indie Corner Radio. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody. I'm here with.
Hi, I'm Emily Dinova. Thank you so much for having me, Jonathan.
Yeah. So Emily and I have been friends for Facebook for a while, and I've been following her career path and the stuff that she's been doing, and I got really excited. I was like, oh man, I gotta talk to her, and she was gracious enough to come on the show, and I really appreciate it.
Amazing. Yes, I'm really happy to be here and thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this chat.
Good, I've been too. I've been thinking about like what can I like what exactly are we gonna talk about? And there's a lot, just looking over this a lot of stuff you've done and everything. There's a good amount. So we have a lot. And it's not just film stuff and TV stuff, but other things too. So to kind of go in so people know sort of a little bit of your past, I guess, like how did you get into like filmmaking and everything, or is it just sort of something you stumbled onto?
Sure. So my background predominantly is in theater. I grew up doing theater and stuff like that. And well, I have been exploring all the aspects of theater, whether that was, technical, backstage work, actually acting, all the different aspects of it I enjoyed. And that sort of led me eventually in my early 20s into starting to get into film more. So my creative partner and I started making movies, short films, stuff like this, and we decided to start our own production company, which is called Genie Productions. And we try to produce one short film or one short theater piece a year, which we were pretty successful in doing up to about, COVID times. And then things got a little rough, but we still managed to make a couple films throughout that process as well. So that's kind of how I stumbled a bit into film through theater.
Wow, well, we'll definitely get into that. And before we kind of get into all of that, like you said, you did theater. Like I guess you started out in theater. How old were you when you discovered your love for theater?
Well, I guess I'd have to go even further back. I actually started playing musical instruments when I was, 8, 9 years old. And my piano teacher told my mom that I had good pitch and I should get into voice lessons. So I studied singing and classical vocal performance for about 14 years of my life,
Oh wow.
steadily. Yeah, and that sort of opened the door to musicals, and then more straight classical theater as well. So it's been sort of a creative progression my whole life.
All right. What was the first play you ever did?
The first play I ever did was in fifth grade called The Phantom Toll Booth.
Oh, I love the Phantom Toll Booth.
It's a
Oh
good
wow.
one, yeah.
Yeah, what was your character in that?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
No, I just remember the play. It's weird too because that's actually the first performance I did. My grandmother actually had passed away during it, while I had been doing the
Oh.
show. Yeah, and I was a kid, so it was like I think the memory for that reason, like I have this very visual memory of the performance, but I think that sort of like cleared out any like specific memories I have. But yeah, that was my first play.
Incredible that's like yeah, I remember like I think for school they had us watch the movie or whatever, and I don't know if you've ever watched that movie, but like
Oh.
whoever made that movie was on drugs because it's like the craziest movie I've ever seen. Like so many
Okay, now I'm gonna have to
colors.
watch it.
Oh man, it's great. And it's weird. Like it's the weirdest, like for children to watch this, it's just so strange. It's like this kid gets a toll booth that's like as a gift or whatever, that is just in his house and he opens it up and and then he gets a car and drives through it. Like who thinks of this stuff? Like it was such, I mean, it's a book, but like it's
Right.
incredible. So yeah, that's great. I didn't even know it was a I didn't know anybody used it as a play, so that's
I
great.
didn't even know it was a book, so here we are learning things.
Yeah. I used to have the book. I did. I don't think I have it
Oh,
anymore, but I used to have the book.
so interesting.
Yeah, I might have to buy it again. I got a new bookcase if you saw, I don't know if you saw, but like I can put all I'm gonna put a bunch of different things in there eventually. Um,
Glorious.
So anyway, to go back, so that was cool. That was the first one you did, but you don't really remember. What's the first one you remember doing,
Oh, like my first like high school production, I think
or something like that? Yeah.
yeah, Wizard of Oz.
Were you Dorothy?
No, I was the Good Witch.
Oh,
I
you're
was
Glinda.
Glinda.
All
Yeah.
right. Have you
Yeah,
seen
yeah, yeah.
Wicked?
Yes, I have. I actually saw it with the original cast, which
Oh,
was
so
very
you saw the
cool.
play
Yes, I have
originally.
not seen the film yet. No,
Okay.
I've heard great things though.
Okay. So, but yeah, all right. Well, cool. I'd love to hear what you have to say after that, because I mean, you have a background in like was it musical theater, and so I mean, that's awesome that you get to see Wicked in the, actually with the original cast and stuff like that. That's incredible. Not many
Hmm.
people have that opportunity or whatever,
Yes.
and but now you're going out and doing stuff. So you went out, you did all these kind of play. Were your like family very supportive of this?
Yes, my parents are very supportive. They both dabbled in the arts when they were younger, so they've been very active in supporting my career. They come to my shows, they're always very positive about my work. They love to talk about all the stuff that I do. So I'm very blessed in that regard.
They love to brag about you, right? Is that what you're saying?
I think all parents do that.
Yeah, like my parents were always shocked when I was doing stuff. Like if I had a what is it, like an older person working for me. Like I had this man who was in his 70s doing my lighting stuff. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but we had him doing our lighting stuff, and my mom would come out and just start chit-chatting with him. And it would, like, she was just in, like, and I talked to her. I said, why did you go talk to him and stuff? And she was like, I just wanted to find out why a man of that age would want to work with you. I was like, really? Thanks.
They parents keep you humble.
I know. I know. Seriously. Do your parents ever like act like that if you shoot stuff around them or
Oh yeah, no, they my parents like to find themselves in the roles. My mom will be like, "Oh, that sounds like me." So, occasionally I think that's just the curse of being related to a writer. You eventually end up in a story or two, right?
but did you write stuff
Yeah,
and
of
you're like and
course.
put your mom, like, thinking of your mom
Oh
and
yeah. Oh yeah.
oh
She's
man.
the star of one of my plays. So, and she knows it, and she came to the play and she loved it. So it was a pretty awesome experience.
So not only are they keeping you humble, but you're keeping them humble too a little bit.
I try a little bit, yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love that. I especially love when I'm mad at somebody. Like I really don't like somebody pissed me off, so I just put them in my movie and kill them off, you know.
Exactly. It's the greatest job in the world when you could just pick up a pen to right a wrong.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it doesn't happen in real life, or whatever. It doesn't, it doesn't transfer to real life, but I think wasn't there a movie recently about a kid who had like a crayon that no matter what he wrote came to life or something? I don't know.
Oh, I've seen a couple different shows and things like that. It's
Yeah.
interesting. It's
Yeah, the
fun to play
idea
with.
that like, and I think we've all had that like thought in our head of like, man, only if we could write whatever and it could just happen, and
Mhm.
stuff like that. So yeah, so you go off and I saw like you studied in England, if I'm correct.
I did. Yes, I did my master's in London at Regent's University. So I was there doing that for a couple years, which was an amazing experience. I actually met my publisher there,
Oh,
who ended up publishing two of my books. So that was kind of an interesting, fortuitous thing. At the time, it hadn't been the case, but years and years later, we reconnected and then he was interested in publishing my novel. So yeah, London was very interesting. I learned a lot. I saw a lot of great theater there. It's just a different experience
I
than seeing theater here, I think.
I'm sure it is. And wow, so did you have like an accent for a little bit?
Only if I had too much wine.
Really? Like when you would
Um,
mimic them or something or whatever?
well, you become you start to pick up certain words, or things you don't necessarily even realize. Like you get used to. I mean, now I've lived in New Jersey for 11 years, and sometimes I'll hear myself, But yeah, no, it was pretty subtle. Maybe not to the poor English speakers who had to listen to me, but to me it was subtle.
It was sort of all of a sudden they're like, that's not how we speak, you know?
They're like, what's the American doing?
I know. I know a few actual like I know a British guy and I asked him the other day because he lives in Virginia now and I was like, do you miss England? You know? And he said, only when it's cold. Like here or whatever, like other than
Yeah, that
that,
checks out.
yeah. And I was like, all right, okay, I can buy that. But no,
Well, the
I,
thing I really love about England, especially for like being a writer, is this like preservation of like historical sites and things.
mm,
So, if you're looking to like write a period piece or, try to like, you're really into history, you can kind of find landmarks and things that correlate throughout, like for example, like Liverpool Street Station, the original like ceilings are like Bethlehem Hospital and like that's referenced in King Lear and like Bedlam Tom, So it's like this weird thing that like was like, oh my God, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years old, but there is still some sort of like presence of it. And London in itself, I think, feels that way that it's sometimes a very heavy presence because there's so much violence and, terrible things associated with their past, which makes it very interesting.
like Jack the Ripper.
Like
Yeah.
Jack the Ripper.
Yeah, things like that. That's yeah. Well, uh and I'm sure like being there and like walking down those streets and seeing those things sort of also, give you a little bit of creativity.
Absolutely, a lot of inspiration. I mean, it's one of the main reasons I love to travel. It's just to be able to get a new perspective, a different perspective, learn something.
Yeah, definitely. Now, okay, so let's get into your mind of like your habits of a writer. Like I like to always sort of dive into that stuff when I have writers because as a writer, I have different habits and I even have a whole book that is called like 101 Habits of Successful, Screenwriters or whatever. So, do you have like okay, so in the morning, do you write or do you write at night or do you not have a time?
I am completely chaotic. I have no time. I have no rhythm. I have no rhyme or reason. When I decide to write, I sit down and I write. And usually, depending on what I'm writing, like if it's a short play or a screenplay, it's a little bit of a different experience. I might really take my time with that. I might leave it alone, come back to it. But with novel writing, it's very much like once I really get into it, I have to stay in it until
Mhm.
I get at least through. Because it's too much to stay to remember and to continually like my process is like every time I stop writing, whenever I stop writing, whenever it feels right for me, the next day when I go back, I have to pick up to the previous place I had left off and read everything I wrote the day before. And I have to keep doing that in order to keep myself on track because it's easy, especially when you're world building, if your novel's not set in a like specific reality. And even if it is, you still have, who did this, when, where, how is this connected? So I think it's always important, at least for me, to like revisit each time. Um,
Do you have like all that like organized down? Like, do you have things, other like folders or whatever of like like if you're writing a story world or whatever, and you have like, this person is connected to this person, that person's connected to that person, and all these things, because I'm doing the same thing. I've got
mhm.
a whole universe I'm creating. And it gets frustrating when I'm writing a script and then I'm like, oh shit, gotta go back and make sure that I said this because this happened before or whatever.
Yeah. Again, like, I mean, I feel like every writer has their own process, but like organization is so important if you're writing long form because like you said, you get lost in it. You're like, who was supposed to be where and there, and like
Mhm.
I play with time a lot, so even if the structure is linear, like it's important to have organization, I think. So I used to be, and again, if it's a short project, I'll wing it. If it's a 5-page story or something, I'm like, well, the ending will find itself, right? It won't be a lot
Right.
to revise. But trying to do that with like 400 pages, you're like, well, what the hell is like my brain's gonna explode. So yeah, I would say just being organized is so helpful in that, but it's not always the easiest thing.
When you wrote like your first big novel, like, the one where you got to, page whatever, because I don't know about you, but for me, it's a lot of times it's easier to start a project than it is to finish it, because I get distracted. I've got ADD. So I'm like, I like this project, and then I got this project, and I have to, actually sit down and just like be like, dude, just finish this, get this done so you can move on to the next one. But when you finally do it, you finally did your, you got the most pages out of your ever. Like, how excited and like how did that feel to like actually do that?
Gosh, it's so long ago now. I mean, yeah, it's I guess kind of surreal. Like you don't really think about it because it's suddenly like, well, what now I have to do something with it, right? Like you almost can't be like, okay, I have this thing, I'm gonna enjoy it. You're like, no, 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 like what's the next step? What do I do next?
Hmm.
So it's kind of like that. You go through this whole quarrying process. You're very hopeful, if you get hits or something. And the first manuscript I wrote never got published. That book does not, I mean, it exists on paper, is in my computer, but it's not technically a manuscript. So I said, okay, well, if they're not going to publish that one, then I'm just going to write another one. So that's what I did.
Hmm.
And then they didn't publish that one, so I wrote another one. And then the second one got published, and then the third one got published. So it's like there's an excitement to any sort of completing a work, but as you know, is it ever really complete? I mean, are we ever truly finished with the project, even when we write fin or the end or whatever it is?
Well, in the film world, no, because even if you're shooting it, there's still rewrites that sometimes happen on set, and sometimes I remember hearing, do you know who the director Uwe Boll is?
I
He
do
did
not.
he did like Alone in the Dark and House of the Dead. He did a lot of video game movies and stuff.
Okay.
And he had got this this is what I heard from like a writer thing, a writer documentary. Uh Guinevere Turner got to write for Blood Rain, and she just did like a first draft, right? Sent it out to them, and Uwe goes, "Okay, we shoot." And
Oh my
she
gosh.
goes, well, wait, what? That's like that's the first draft. Like, usually you give me notes, I go back, I fix it, I give it, and they go, no notes. We go and shoot. And then she found out 'cause she watched the movie. She was like, that is not the script I gave them.
Oh,
What happened was the director gave the script to the actors and told them to rewrite it, based on their stuff. And then other people rewrote it and it just became what it became. And I mean, she was happy because she got paid, that's it. That's all. Like, that was just a paycheck movie to her. But like, oh my goodness, like she was like, it was awful. Like, it was not
that's
what,
intense.
yeah. And so I just like, I can't imagine ever being a writer. And I mean, you do your own projects, right? Like, you've never really wrote for a director like that you weren't already attached as a producer or so, right?
I've done a few projects like writing projects and things like that, and it can be very frustrating. People will hire you to do one thing and then they're like, well, I want to change this thing. And it's like, well, okay, that's go ahead. You don't need me for that. Like, I'm not, you know what I'm saying? Like, they ask you to write something and it's like, okay, you do one, two, three rewrites. And then they're like, oh, well, here's this other script I wrote. Can you give me notes? And it's like, that's not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, well, we have to go back to square one, and then we have to talk about that. Then this is a different project. This is a different thing. But I am very much about, I have to say, very much about collaboration. Like that sounds like no organization, what you're talking about, but I love the concept, right? Like of a project where you can pass it around to the different people on set or whoever's working on it and have their input. It's kind of a creative, interesting way to make a movie, but not if the not if the writer's like, is this my movie? What is this?
What? I mean, she was like, "Oh my God." Like,
Yeah, that's
I can't believe. And I love that thought. Like, my friend John is like obsessed with Uva. He actually just interviewed him and everything. And I love that. Like, that's cool. Like, you can love this dude, but like after hearing that, I was just like, I don't know, man. I don't know if that's like how he rolls for everything. That's what like somebody told her. That's how he did it for that movie, or that's how he does it for like a few of his projects and stuff with writers when he pays writers to. I mean, I guess they basically pay for the blueprint, you know?
yeah, and I think you have to really be able to like remove yourself from the work. Like you can't really get attached to it in the same way if it's not like going to remain with you and or in a way that you're a part of the creative process.
Exactly. Well, and it's also sad when a writer and I love your input on this, but like when a writer writes something, right, and they're very proud of the work that they've accomplished, and then a director comes in and they just bastardize it, and they just take out what's good because after that it's really like you wrote it, you're happy with it, and at this point you got to just give it to a like it's like a baby you got to give to adoption and just hope for the best, you know? And
Mm.
then when you find out that that kid was kind of beat, and treated badly and all this stuff, I mean, you can't do anything. You can't call Child Protective Services on your script, you know?
Yeah, you
You know,
just feel really guilty.
you just feel, yeah. I'm like, oops, I shouldn't probably work with that guy
Why?
anymore.
Yeah, shoot, why did I do that? But it's all, I mean, that's the thing. It's all a process. It's all a learning experience. And even the experiences that, can be harrowing or intense or very negative is at least I try to look at it as, well, I've learned something, I'm not going to do this again.
Right. Well, I mean, and for you as a writer, how like deeply personal do you get with your scripts and or stories?
Very. Writing for me is very cathartic. It's been a big part of my healing process, in general, on the journey of life. So I do not shy away because my writing is like, I don't know, it's always a very personal experience for me to even put it out of myself. So I try to just at a later state when it's like, oh, it's going to be published, which my last novel, I never had any intention of publishing. I wrote it really for me. And so the fact that it's now out there is like, it's out of my control. But I wouldn't change anything because like, it's who I am. My writing is like my child, like my children, those are the pieces of me that I'm leaving behind. And that's kind of, I just kind of accept it.
I,
Wherever it lands, it lands.
I agree. But the thing is, like, you know how people say you can't pick your favorite children and stuff like that. You gotta love them all equally. Sometimes with some scripts, you love them better. You're like, this is a better script than or story than the last one or whatever. And I always feel bad because, I think as writers, we're always trying to do better, you know?
Yes.
Like we're not trying to. I don't think Stephen King ever looks around and says, you know what, I'm good. I'm just gonna write crap for the rest of whatever. Like he wants his next, story to be something that people are like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is brilliant. And so, but this is better than the last one he did, and keeps getting better and better. But so yeah, I think it's weird to say about the children thing because like there are some, stories and scripts that I've written that I felt personally that were much better. And I feel like I think each day I guess I'm parenting better, in a way.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. Yeah, well, I mean, you're always gonna have a couple fucked up kids. I mean, scripts. Um, But no, I mean that's the goal, right? Like it's to get better. It's to be a better writer. And Stephen King himself says if you don't have the time and tools to read, you don't have the time and tools to write. So I always find that that's always stuck with me that reading is just as important because if you're not taking in what you like or what you don't like, you're not adding anything into to whatever is going on up here.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I look at scripts that, I wrote that are sentimental to me or very important to me because of where I was in my life when I was writing them, what the feelings are associated with them, the sense of accomplishment. And then there's things I've written that, will never get done or they're just for me but there's something in them that's very personal and special. But I see what you mean, but I think it's great that you're seeing your progress and that you feel like you're
I
continually getting better because that's how it should be.
I don't know. Maybe other people don't see it, but I do. I mean, that's the funny thing is like once our art is out there, you know, it's not just for us to judge anymore. And I feel like, some, especially filmmakers, get a little bit too like hurt by criticisms and stuff
Hmm.
and whatnot. And I feel like I always tell people don't because I have to criticize because I do indie film cafe and that it's a critique and I'm not being mean like I'm not being
No,
mean spirited and telling people they are terrible and the worst people ever and they should never make movies or whatever. I mean, maybe some should try to let other people help them a little bit more, not rely on them on just themselves. But I would never tell somebody never to watch something because what I like doesn't mean you won't like it, and you might like something I would totally not like, and that's fine, I mean,
right.
that means we all have, there's art for everybody. And so anyway, I truly think like do you ever like look at that? Like do you ever use criticism as a tool to like sort of help you or do you feel like that's just their point of view and their judgment?
I mean, I think art is so subjective, right? So, like, what one person finds amazing and inspiring and beautiful, the other person can think is totally trash. So, I just assume that there's people who find my work to be great and people who find my work to be mediocre and people who find my work to be intolerable, perhaps. I don't know. I just assume it's across the spectrum. But as like a person who has gone on a million auditions and has been a professional actor for the last 10 years, like I'm very good with rejection because I'm very used to it.
That's part of
You
the
have,
job,
yeah, you have to learn how to not take it personally. And I think there is a huge difference, like what you're talking about, between a criticism and a critique. And I think there is a pleasant way, to say things. I don't think it's necessary to be, terrible or rude or try to crush people or, ruin their lives by damning their art, their work, especially people who, don't necessarily feel comfortable putting themselves out there. So I think it's really brave anybody who's willing to put their art out there and take that. And I think, you just you have to not take it personally. You have to think about it as like, okay, well, it's not their style, and I'm sure we both have experiences with art, that we like and dislike or can't tolerate and do tolerate or whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think it's part of the process. And of course it feels a little like if, somebody's like, "Oh, your film is this or it's that," or it's a negative connotation. It's hard not to, because
hmm
you put so much of yourself into it, right? Like every project is everything. It's everything. But people are gonna hate no matter what. That's out of your control.
I had a letterbox critiquer. Like that's what he is. Like he goes on Letterbox and critiques and he critiqued my movie. And he gave like 1.5 stars, right? And he said what he didn't like about it, or and a lot of that is stuff I can change and fix and whatever because I didn't have the money, and even if I did, I, necessarily would have done that anyway. And he blocked me from like Facebook. And I think
Wow.
it's because I think he was afraid that I would see his critique. That's what I imagine is that it might not have been. He might have just not liked me. I don't know. personally. I have no idea. I don't know the guy. Never met him, never talked to him, never had any
Sure.
interaction, and and then he went and praised my friend's movie and everything. And I was like, you know what? I mean, that's cool, like
Each
go
their
ahead.
own, you know?
Yeah. I mean, everybody's got their own thing. I'm like, I would have loved to talk to the guy, and kind of like,
Right.
and not in a mean way and like confronted him or anything, but just kind of like, I always kind of use that as a tool to sort of, like, as I said, a tool to sort of try to evolve and get better. I don't think of 1.5 stars as being bad. It's being that somebody didn't like my movie and hopefully if they watch the next thing, he did watch something I co-wrote with somebody, and he praised the short that I co-wrote. Did not mention my name, but
Mhm.
but he had to have known I co-wrote it. So he did not bash it. He wasn't like, "Oh my God, this, sucked." So you know what I mean? Like you have to
Yeah, it
be
wasn't personal, you
wasn't
know?
personal. And I feel like a lot of directors feel that like and writers especially because you pour your heart and soul into something. A lot of times they feel like when the Amazon critique is up there, I'm sure you've seen some that you're just like I'm not happy with this, but
Yeah.
maybe they said something that you didn't realize. Did that ever happen? Like that you didn't realize, like, oh wow, I could have made that a little bit better or something.
Absolutely. I take a lot of it. I like to send my work out before, it's published to ARC readers, editors, close family friends, anyone who is interested in reading it. And to hear them say like, "Oh, I think you could have done this," or maybe this would be interesting. Like, I'm very open to that too, because like you, I want to evolve. I want to be a better writer. I want to make sure that I'm keeping my audience engaged. And, I've gotten 1 star reviews, 2 star reviews, and I feel the same way. I think, well, okay, they didn't like it, but hey, it affected them enough that they felt like they needed to talk about it and leave a review. And that in and of itself is a really good thing because you have people talking about it. And I remember one review I got, the the reviewer said something to the effect of no matter how hard they tried, they could not relate to any character in the book. And it sort of like caught me off guard. And I kind of pondered on it, being like, there's so many characters in the book. Like, who is this person and how are they not able to relate to any facet of like me on any level, but they still kind of enjoyed the book, so it's like it's strange things like that you sometimes get a reviewer and it makes you think and it makes you question. And sometimes those small critiques or pleasant like criticisms can really help you with another project or just fuel you to think about it in a different way.
Definitely. So there's that. I don't know if you've ever read the Save the Cat stuff. Like, they did one for novels too, but I bought that, but I haven't really looked at it because it seems kind of silly. Because they have like a beat sheet for novels, and I'm like, and they use the same beats, it feels like, as like 3 acts of like a script and stuff
Hmm.
or a novel. And I'm like, that's a little weird. But the idea of Save the Cat is that the main character does something that makes them heroic or makes you connect with them as an audience, like saving a cat from a tree, and stuff like that. All of a sudden they're the hero of the story, and you could connect with them that way. How do you feel about that as a writer for novels? Like, do you feel like you have to, how do you make people connect with certain characters, especially ones that might be really hard to connect with?
I manipulate them.
I like that. I like that.
I yeah, well, and it's funny because I'm telling you this story about my characters not being relatable. And in my latest book, people are finding the protagonist extremely relatable. They're like, I relate to this person so much. So I think the idea is trying to find out human truths, like we're all so different. We're all so unique and individualized as people, as human beings, but we have all these overlapping things. So I think studying people, studying behavior, observing people, and intaking a lot of, content, whether that's books, movies, theater, any type of visual live art, anything, I think can be a real tool.
Definitely. It's interesting now. I don't know if a lot of writers do this. I don't know if this would be a thing or not, but watching somebody like on Facebook or Instagram or even TikTok live and just seeing how people talk and how people can relate, because I mean, I guarantee you there's some people that turn people off when they watch these things and stuff. And there's some people that people are like, I watch these like I'm not political, but I kind of like watching like political debates and stuff. They're
Mhm.
just fun to me. It's almost like watching a movie when somebody is
Sure.
like doing that. And so I watch these ones on TikTok where these people like debate on, their side and everything on TikTok live. And I
Hmm.
get into like I can see different people and the different characters that they are. Like there's one guy who's just so nice to everybody and he's so sweet, blah blah blah. Then there's a guy who's just like a hothead. And he's just kind
Mm.
of this like, kind of like this. He's not an asshole. He's a likable guy, but he's kind of a hothead. He yells at everybody. He gets mad. He gets frustrated. And then there's the guy who's like kind of in between. Like he can become like a hothead, and then he becomes like, and then he's also he tries to be super duper nice to everybody. So he's almost like he's trying to be the best of both of those things. And I'm
Hmm.
like, you could look at those things and you could put them into a story. Like these are characters, and I don't realize how much just watching people on live can like help like maybe
Totally.
create somebody, or something.
Absolutely. I mean, any type of human observation, if you're paying attention, you're gonna pick up on things that you can use, whether it's, tonal in your voice, whether it's a physical manifestation, whether it's, something that maybe unconsciously comes through. I mean, writing is such a stream of conscious process. So sometimes like you don't even realize, like I had my creative partner had taught my book my first novel to a continuing education adult class. And for the last class, I went in to kind of see what they had thought about the book. And I'm in there and they're telling me things about me, right? And
Right.
I'm like being analyzed by this group of individuals who have never met me, who have invested, months into reading my book. And now they're telling me, like, well, you're clearly an outcast. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of am. I get that. I identify with that. And it's so funny because then I harken back to like this reviewer telling me that none of these characters are relatable. And then, these people in this class telling me, of course it's relatable. It's just it's on the outside. It's about being outside of the group, outside of society, outside of, the rules and what it is to be in line. And that is something that is so part of me. And it isn't something that I even necessarily consciously realized while I was writing that book. So sometimes it takes someone else to tell you something about yourself, about your work. So I think people who critique and write about film and novels and things are very important because it gives us another perspective we might not have.
I think it's always good, and I haven't really done this yet. I probably should at some point, but to get like other people's perspectives of what they think about you, period, so that I guess, it helps you sort of identify where you want to go with your writing and with the stuff, because like once you sort of figure out yourself, you can use that more to your advantage of writing the scripts and the stories that you want to do. Um, how did you meet your creative partner?
So we're both actors and we got cast in a show. And we realized we both loved making movies and we were both, really interested in our tagline is bringing back the Renaissance. So we're all about art not being put in a box. We're interested in change. We're interested in ideas that move things forward. And we're interested in working with people from all different walks in terms of like whatever people do, like DPs, the makeup artists, lighting, like writers, actors, anyone and everyone like we want to collaborate with. So we were really interested in exploring, all of that. So we started producing and he's more of a director, I dabble in directing. I'm more theater because film. I can only direct like one film every 10 years or my brain will explode. But I I do love it. I love to AD. I love to produce. So, kind of just we just started getting really interested in all of that, and it really took off from there. So we're making a movie in February, which is really exciting. We actually have some name talent attached to the
Nice.
film, which I can't talk about right now,
I
but I will
totally
tell you at a later
uh,
time for
yeah.
sure.
I love that. And I want to go back to the whole you can't direct something for like 10 years or your brain will explode or whatever. Was because I mean you directed a short, right? Like a short film. Was it was it a hard thing to just kind of focus on that when, or like what was it that was hard for you?
Directing for me, the aspect of being the person, right? Like you're in control. Like you're the person everybody's like, okay, we're making the movie. It's you. It's go time. Let's go. So I loved the pre-production aspect of it because it really blended with the production. And I love the creative part of it because the DP I worked with on that film was very artistic. He was a cinematographer, in his that's
Mm,
how he described himself. And though he had all this really great technical information and that I didn't, he also had the creative aspect. So we worked
mm,
well. But my main fear was, in theater, it's so you're there, it's immediate, like you know what's happening in the moment. Whereas with film, it's like everything is happening beforehand, and then it's kind of like you're there, and then you're like, I'm like, well, what is it? What do I do now? What do I do now that I'm here?
right?
So, it was a big crew. It was a very important film. It meant a lot to the producers and the actors and the writers who were all the same were involved with it. And so it felt like a big I wanted to make sure that I brought the creative vision that everybody had been, working on together. Um, so yeah, I think it was just all of the moving parts and being responsible for so many people. It was really overwhelming to me at first. Now, after like producing on bigger budgeted, bigger scale films, I'm like, okay, let me be the
Mm.
director again. But no, it's a lot of creative responsibility, especially if it's not my project, and which it wasn't. So that's why I think I was very anxious and very wanted to make sure it was all right. Especially, it's not my money, it's not my script, but I'm in charge. It was a lot of pressure, but a great learning experience. Um, the film, I was very happy with it, and everybody else that was on the project was too. So that was the important thing.
That's that's amazing. And yeah, it's a lot of pressure, you know.
Hmm.
Um and so that can be it can be scary at times, especially when you sort of think like everything's on your shoulders, you know. But like what I sort of realized as a director, and I've directed a lot of projects, and each time I get worried, you know, because we like for instance, we had a guy end up what is it we had an actress who got into a car accident the day before we're shooting
Oh
for
my
one of the
gosh.
projects. So, when I called her up, to find out if she was coming, which I didn't know about the accident, she said, "No, I can't make it. I'm just coming out of the hospital right now and stuff." And I was like, "Oh God, okay." So I had to like think really quickly, what could I do? So we called somebody. Thankfully, they came to fill in, but my idea was that that person couldn't fill in. I had to like write out that character and give lines to fix the lines around
Oh
and do
geez.
stuff. Yeah. But like that is the director. Yeah, and the producer, I guess, but mostly the director. The director has to figure out all those things, and whatnot. And it's a lot of pressure. It's not easy because you can't just get everybody together and then go, never mind, we'll give up, you know?
Yeah,
Like
no,
you
you
have
have
to
to.
figure it out,
Yeah,
right?
you need the solution. You're the person with the solution. It's like, okay, what do we do?
Right. So
Yeah.
I love that you have a big crew and that they all seem to like get really involved and enjoy what they're doing.
The people
That's
I work, I'm so lucky. I have worked with so many great people, and as you know, being a director, all it takes is one bad apple to poison the whole production. It's the same with theater. You have one person in there who's not a team player, who isn't rolling with everything. It can really throw it off. So I'm particular about who I work with, and that film in particular, like I'm just like whenever I was interviewed, there's like, as the director, what did you how have you, I was like, I just hired great people. Like
right.
it's, it's so much of it is the crew. I mean, I was really, really lucky with them.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
Yeah.
that's amazing. That and like how what so was that the biggest project, like the one you directed, or have you directed bigger or not directed, but been a part of bigger projects after that?
I AD'd a pretty big project in September. I think I had 25 to 30 extras on set.
Holy cow.
Yeah, and the producer ended up not being able to come to set. So I was kind of like AD producing, and then I stepped in as an extra too one day. So I was like, oh, mind is going to explode. It was an overnight shoot too. But you know what? I learned so much from this producer and being on this set because it was a bigger project than I would normally be on. And I was also kind of on my own without my like normal crew. So that was a great learning experience. And I really recommend doing that, kind of throwing yourself into a project, whatever role, with a different crew, but on your own and see how people work differently from, whatever your regular thing is. And I think that keeps you sharp. I think you can learn a ton that way. I certainly did. And it really is helping me now with the project that I'm ADing for my own company.
It's funny because I never AD'd. I've had some amazing AD people like in my life, and some bad apple AD people in my life too. Like some people that were hard to work with and everything like that and stuff. Like one AD it was her house that we're shooting at, and we had to be done by a certain time, and we were behind schedule, to begin with, and she just kept saying the time. Like it's 11 p.m. I'm like, okay. It's 12 a.m. Okay. Like after a while, I just wanted to tell her to stop it. Like, I'm done because I don't want to hear this right now. I need to concentrate and focus on whatever's, going on next. But yeah, we've had that. And then, I was supposed to PA a big movie, you know, but then they also asked me to act in it too, right? As an extra. And so I was like, all right, cool. I'll do that. Well, it wasn't extras, it was a part, I had
Hmm.
lines, but it was like so last minute that they kind of threw out a lot of my lines. They only gave me a couple, and whatnot. But they were the PAing I ended up not doing because
Right.
I was in every scene, like basically I was in the background of every scene, like I was supposed to do that. And it was funny because when I at the end of the day I didn't get the PA credit, I got the acting credit and whatnot, and I was okay with that because I really did nothing as a PA. Like, I had the walkie-talkie, but that was it, you
Right,
know
right.
and everything. So that's awesome. But I love like ADs. Are you like a harsh AD, or are you like a really sweet AD?
I'm pretty sweet. I don't like being like, I really have to be panicking to be like, it's go, like I really have to be like, it has to be like we're not gonna finish the film. And I don't like when it's if it becomes extreme, like, the films that I was on, the guy who was doing transportation just decided not to turn the truck off because he was comfortable in there with the AC, so the battery died. And I'm like, well, we just finished, filming at this location. I need to pick up in 20 minutes because I got to get my crew and my actors back to this hotel so they could have dinner before we go to our next place because the permit ends at midnight and we need to be wrapped there, So like I don't have time. So figure it out. Like get the car jumped and be here in 10 minutes because there's no other option, like stuff like that. that's when my claws will come out a little bit, but only if
Your
it's like
claws.
if I'm getting attitude back, like, well, what do you want me to do? Like if someone's like, I'm sorry, I'll do my best, of course I understand and things happen. But if it's like carelessness or laziness or anything like that, that shit drives me nuts because I'm like, we're making a movie. We don't have a place or a time for this. Be lazy and incapable
Mm.
somewhere else. Don't do it here. Um,
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I agree. Especially
Because
transportation.
it's
I mean, that they're getting paid to drive people places. It's not like
and
they're,
you're just sitting there for a couple hours. I mean, I know film is like that, you're always kind of waiting around, but he's getting paid, he's getting fed, I mean,
yeah,
he's
e-
not carrying around the camera and out in the elements. So just be aware, stuff like that.
exactly. I mean, like things like traffic, you can't help,
No.
things like that. Like, I mean, you can sort of know when traffic might be bad, but like even then there might be a accident, can you do? So I get that, but like, yeah, turning your car, on and just keeping, whatever, and then like it's just oh, that is carelessness and that's
Yeah, like you
bad.
drive trucks, but you don't think about it. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, yeah,
You
stuff
don't
like
think
that.
that your battery might die if you keep it on for like too many hours, Like, oh my goodness. I don't know. I've had one actor, um, and this really pissed me off. I don't know if it's something like this has ever happened to you, but he's not a big time actor or anything, right? But I had him for two short films that I was supposed to do. And a couple days or if not like the day, I don't remember exactly how long it was, but it was like very close to the day of shooting. He messages me and says, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I said,
Oh no.
what's going on? 'Cause I'm not paying him, so I'm like, I can't get mad at him necessarily, but I can be like, we've got people coming from like New Jersey coming down to be in this,
Right.
and other New York and other places. One person came from Florida to be in it, and like, what am I going to do? So, he's like, no, my car broke down. I was like, well, we can come pick you up. And he goes, no, I have to stay by my car while they get it fixed. And I'm like, the whole time? Like you can't come to the second day, Like
Right. Yeah, that's
like
strange.
no, he canceled because he was I think too scared to meet somebody or do something. But like
Okay.
tell me that shit. Don't lie. Don't tell me, like I don't like if you're gonna give me a bad excuse, at
Right.
least give me like
Just
the truth, you know?
right.
Like hit me with the truth. I don't want to see that person. I'd be like, okay. Thanks for letting me know. I'd probably argue for a second, try to get him to come but we did replace him with two people and they were fantastic. And
Well, it
so I
works
always,
out.
well, yeah, I always think it does work out. It works out the way it's supposed to, whether we like it or not, because like at that time,
Indeed.
I was not a fan and happy and everything. I mean, in fact, the second day we're like, "Hey, is your car okay? Or are you okay? Can we come pick you up?" He was like 10 minutes away from the shooting location.
Wow.
There was no way, and he said no. And so I kind of told him I never want to work with him again, like when he
Well,
kept
he's
trying to
not
ask.
reliable.
Right, yeah.
So,
I mean, if you did that to me on one shoot, that's fine, but you like literally did that on two shoots that were back to back. I can't trust that.
yeah.
So
No.
if he had shown up for one of them, he might have been okay. And then, you know, whatever. I mean, it
But that's
happens.
what happens. And you remember that stuff. You remember the people who screw you last minute and you don't want to work with them again. I mean, I have them too, it
Yeah.
happens. And when it does, you're like, okay, lesson learned. And sometimes it's an expensive lesson, hopefully yours wasn't too bad. And that's,
No.
yeah, you realize, okay, well, and I admire that. I admire that you're like, you know what? No, I'm not. Because you know what? You just
Yeah.
like
What
why
can
put
you do?
yourself through it? Yeah.
Yeah. But
Hmm.
also, one thing I want to ask you about this is like, when people do screw you over and you're just like, screw that, I don't ever want to work with them again. Some of those people go back or behind your back and talk trash about you to other people and
Oh, I'm sure
whatnot.
people do that regardless.
Well, that's kind of true. And that's the one thing I really hate about this industry and stuff like that because it becomes like high school, like where and I guess that's like almost every industry and that's almost
Yes,
like
that's people. That's
yeah,
that's civilization.
right. It becomes like high school gossip and then people trying to get people to like not work with somebody because they don't like them anymore and crap like that or whatnot. And I just kind of hate that crap. Like
Yeah,
I
that's
just
silly.
you know, I mean, talking trash is I guess I mean I probably do it sometimes. I can't help it, especially if I don't like the person, but I
Of
don't ever
course.
try to I no, that's a lie. I was gonna say I don't try to talk people out of, but like if there is somebody I really don't feel comfortable with somebody working with because they're not a good person or something, I will say something. And
I
maybe
think that's
some people
fair.
feel the same about me or I don't think anybody could ever say an unkind thing about you. I mean, you just seem
I'm
really
sure
sweet.
they absolutely could. I think, and again, but that's people. Like, I definitely have said things and done things that I'm not proud of, or that I said in a moment of anger or, rage or just, sadness or whatnot. And I mean, we all like have our preferences and stuff, but I think it's a difference. I think if you're working with someone who is not allowing you to be safe, someone who's compromising your integrity as an artist, someone who's putting you in a position that makes you feel uncomfortable, those are the kind of people that shouldn't be working in this industry at all. They shouldn't be working with people at all if those are the things that you're bringing out. Not to say that, like, there aren't crazy great directors that have terrorized their actors for great performances. I'm not disputing that. But I think
Hitchcock. I mean,
Hitchcock is a prime example. I mean, really, I mean, and it's interesting you bring him up because his films are very psychoanalytic, and there's a lot of really meaty stuff to grab on there in relation to Hitchcock and the gaze, the male gaze, the female gaze, how the camera works with that, within this he's just so psychological in like there's so much Oedipal stuff in his work. Like there's just a lot of like regressive, highly emotional stuff that I think hits us on an unconscious level with Hitchcock that is more terrifying than anything we actually see. Um, I don't know. Sorry, you got me excited because you're talking about Hitchcock, and I just
oh,
lost my place.
I love that because my friend G. Larry Butler and I do a podcast called Hooked on Hitchcock, where we've done 3 seasons, so we've done 30 movies so far,
Wow.
of his movies. So we're just going down, and it's not in order, like we're not going from the first movie all the way to the last. We're kind of skipping
Sure.
around, doing different things, and checking out. Sometimes he's never seen them, most of them he's never actually seen, even though
Yeah.
he's a lot older than me, but and that's the reason I picked him for this is because we had him do really bad movies, like we did a thing called Little Stinkers. We got his little daughter on the show and we had him and his daughter is like at the time I think she was like 15, 14,
Wow.
something watching these little crappy movies and stuff. Now she's in college and and she left doing that show. She after the first season they both kind of quit. They were like, we can't take this, too many bad movies and stuff. They're children's movies, bad children's movies. And so I was like, I gotta get them to do a good show, some watch pretty good movies. And some of the Hitchcock movies weren't that great, like there were a couple movies that were like, I don't know if I really like this. Like this wasn't my cup of tea, but then
Mm.
you find some really, really, really good ones that maybe you never heard of, and everything. And
Right
I'll have to
on.
get you on that show so we can, you seem to be like enthralled by Hitchcock, which was he one of your favorite directors or
I
inspiration?
I wouldn't say that he is. I only started watching his movies more recently. I mean, I always knew of him and I've, seen like a lot of the classics and stuff, but when I started a program to get my license in psychoanalysis about 3 years ago. And for one of the film classes that I was taking in psychoanalysis, that we watched, and discussed Hitchcock and particularly Vertigo. which is
Vertigo.
actually,
Okay.
yeah, it's been more psychoanalyzed than like any other Hollywood film, I
Hmm.
believe. Like people have written about it analytically. So yeah, I started getting more interested in his work then, and also because of his relationships with women, his like this sort of distance that he kept from the lead actresses and his sort of like fascination with them in relation to like his relationships with women. And it's just very interesting stuff that we'll definitely have to talk more Hitchcock, but we were talking about shit talking, and I will say that I think no matter the industry, like you're gonna have people who are gonna shit talk you. People are gonna hate you no matter what. I
Hmm.
think there's a quote from The Libertine that I particularly love. It's there are two types of people in this world who hate you: the stupid and the envious. The stupid will like you in 5 years' time. The envious will never. Um,
Wow.
and I try to remind myself of that sometimes when I'm feeling extra vulnerable. But I mean, we're all capable of it. We're all guilty of it. But I think there's a difference between having an attitude on a film set, being like, oh, this fine director's taking his time, whatever. Between that and being like, oh, how can I poison and destroy this project because I'm a sociopath? I mean, there's different levels.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy. I can't imagine somebody that would, I mean, especially because it's to me, yeah, that has to be like a narcissist or a sociopath that does that kind of stuff. Because if you are working on a project that to say, I mean, say it's not just like three people, it's like, 20 people that are working on this project and everything, and then you go and destroy it. You're not just destroying it for the three people you don't like, you're destroying
Right.
it for everybody who worked their butt off to like, that's why I hate to say it, this sounds terrible, but I really hated when David Zaslav decided to get rid of the Batwoman and make it a write-off, a tax write-off, because I'm like, even if it's a bad movie and it would not be good, those people worked their butt off on it, man. And for a long time, I used to be like, well, they got paid. But then I started like really thinking about it. Yeah, they got paid, but like they want their art out there, Like nobody wants to just, even if the movie is terrible, they still want it out there so people can check it out to see kind of what they worked their butt off for. It's not cool to just kind of get rid of things. And I get what he did, it's a business decision, but like I still feel like that's the problem with like studios these days as opposed to like the independent world. We'll put out our crap no matter how bad it is. The other people don't want to do that because they're afraid they're going to lose money, so they write it off as tax write-off so they can get something, recoup something from it and everything. And Joker 2 bombed, sadly. I kind of was looking forward to that one, but
Mhm.
I don't know if you saw it or not.
I didn't it was so terrible, and I was also looking forward to it because I
Uh,
loved the first one so
and you
much.
love musicals, so apparently,
I never
you
said
don't?
that. Don't quote me on
Oh,
that.
okay. I'm not quoting you on that. I thought you did. I thought because you acted in them, you must
No,
have
no,
loved
no,
them.
that was my segue.
Okay, so you
There are musicals I very much enjoy, but as a genre in general, I find it lacking because of straight art, like straight theater. I don't believe that anybody would burst into song and dance in moments of, terror and rage and helplessness like musicals pretend we do sometimes. I understand the concept. It becomes too much to express, so singing is necessary. I get it.
hmm
Um, but I also find the culture of it to be very toxic. I don't know. It's not my vibe, especially when I got to that world. Like when I came to New York and started acting professionally, and when I would go to auditions, and you can just, there's a difference between the musicals and the rest.
is there a lot more
I
like
find.
ego involved or something?
I I think there's a lot more pressure because there's the dancing and there's the singing and there's the acting. It's not just like you're honing in on one thing. So you have to be a triple threat when you walk in the door. There's so much competition. There's so much about the aesthetic, right? Like it's like you have to be this tall and you have to be this thin and you have to be this. Like I don't know how
Mm.
much it still is like that because, we've become more socially aware of the fact that people aren't robots and we're all, different shapes and sizes and all of that stuff. And anybody can dance, you don't have to be a 6'4", 100 pounds and blonde to do that.
Right.
But for a really long time, I think that it's just been so ingrained in that specific, genre that this is the glamour, this is the glitz, this is the entertainment aspect. It's not so much about the art. And it bothers me now, especially too, with like so much of Broadway is just they're just like plugging in celebrities, like there's no such thing as like New York stars, it feels like in the same way. It's everybody comes in, they like bus them in from Hollywood. They're like, yeah, let's put you in this and we'll put you Jake Gyllenhaal, go do this on Broadway. And we just want to sell tickets. We just want to charge as much as we can to get people in the door. We don't care what sort of show we're giving you, what sort of and it's a shame because I've seen shows where I'm like, wow, the orchestra is fire. Like this pit is ridiculous. These people are like so talented. Or like the dancers, they're like, oh my God, they're unbelievable. But it's just like the story in and of itself, or like, there's not a lot of meat to it in the same way. Like I can appreciate the music and the composition, but as like an overall statement, I just
Mm.
find it takes me out.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely different and probably for you because you're like I've only been in one musical in my life
Which
and
musical?
uh how was it? Carousel. Um
Oh, okay.
yeah, and I was a background person, so I was just, and basically I lip synced. Like I didn't even sing because I was like I knew like everybody else had a higher voice than I did. So I was just like just pretended to sing the songs because I was like, they hear my voice, they're gonna be like, nope, but I can blend in with everybody and look like I'm joining them and everything. I'm not a musical guy as far as uh like I like musicals some, like I just bought earlier this year bought a movie from Warner Archives called It's Always Fair Weather, so I like those old 60s and 70s musicals or it's
Sure.
all that stuff because I feel
Well, like
like
when they were new too, like it
yeah.
wasn't like everything is now a revival. Like there's so much redo and recycling of it too.
And I feel like plays in general and stuff like everybody has to there has to be something new and something whatever. And then there's things like there's some movies that become, like Evil Dead the musical. Like, what?
Hmm.
Well, why?
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess it's kind of cool. Like a lot of my friends worked on it. So like I'm like, oh,
That is
that's
cool.
neat. But like I'm like I don't like whoever thought Evil Dead needed a musical, I don't know. I like Little Shop of Horrors, and
Or
stuff like that.
classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. And and was it I was a really big like so when I got into high school, we did Joseph the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. I auditioned for stuff like that, but I can't sing, so I got nothing, That
Right,
happened
I
to like
see.
all the different, I was kind of disappointed. I was like, I can't even be like, I got to be in Carousel because they pretty much knew I could just blend in the background, but because the people that put it out pretty much put everybody in, whoever auditions almost usually gets a role for
I
this
see.
company. And I thought that was really sweet. It was a kid, like it's almost like kids to adults, kind of
Oh,
company and stuff. A
that's
lot of,
cool.
yeah, I liked it. It was called Backstage. They don't think they are around anymore because I think the lady who ran it has passed away since,
I
this was like
see.
20 20 years ago. Geez, like a
Oh,
little
wow.
longer than that. It was right after high school and my friend Carrie was into it and she's still out there. I think she's given up on singing like and stuff like that, but I think she should. She definitely should continue going back out there and stuff.
Do it, Carrie.
Yeah. I love all my friends, like all my
Oh,
local friends who are into the plays and stuff because they work their butt off, Like I'm proud
absolutely.
of all of them, but I'm like, it was never something like I always wanted to do film. So the plays was just like practice for me, I guess. And I don't know if
Sure.
that sounds bad
Well,
or
no,
what.
you're like exploring. You're, seeing, okay, does this work for me? Okay, yeah, no, all right.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's what we do as artists. Like, there's so many mediums, right? I mean, there's so many aspects of our industry, So I think we're always trying to I mean, if we're curious, right? We're exploring, we're trying to learn new stuff, we're trying to figure it out. So I think it's awesome. I think it's always good to try new things. You never know what you're gonna find.
you never, yeah, that's absolutely true. I also now I really because okay, so you did theater, you've done movies, and you are a Taekwondo red fifth degree red belt, if I'm
I
correct.
am. Yes, that's
Yes,
correct.
that is awesome. Like we've talked about this.
Thank
I
you.
did karate when I was like 7. I started because I
Yes,
watched The Karate Kid and got obsessed with
amazing.
that stuff, and it was better than soccer or swimming or whatever. And I got to junior black belt, and I quit and then I kind of tried to come back a couple times, realized I was old. Like, it just didn't work. Twice I tried to come back and it didn't work. And
Third
plus
time's a charm.
ugh, no. I'm, I was old and when I was 20 something, like I'm in my 40s now. No, I'd die. Like I'd have to literally get into shape way before I start again. And I was like 20 something year old and I had to fight like kids, or
Yeah,
whatever that were kicking my butt. And I
yeah,
was like,
yeah.
how? And it was like I was a junior black belt once. How is this like? How is this happening?
Oh my
And
gosh.
I mean, it's not like riding a bike. It's really you forget a lot of these things when you get older. And so it's great to see that you just got promoted to that, right? Like if I'm correct, you just passed your promotion for it. So once again,
Correct.
congratulations. That's fucking
Thank you.
sick. I mean, that's the highest you can get, right?
Well, I mean, in the color belts, yeah. So that means that I'll be testing for my black belt in June of 2026. So
Oh
I'm
wow.
technically, yeah. And then that's really when the training begins, once you get your black belt.
See, Taekwondo is different than
Um,
karate, like way different.
yes, very.
You guys do more from what I yeah, I don't get mad at me, okay? But
I won't get mad at you.
my sensei used to say, if you messed up or something or you did something different, or whatever, he would go, what have you been doing, this weekend? Training at Taekwondo or whatever,
Would he
because
really?
yeah, he would bash on Taekwondo, and I'm like thinking, why would you do that? That's mean. Uh,
Well, because Taekwondo was created to defend against karate, so that would be my guess.
oh man, maybe I didn't realize there was this like animosity between the two.
Very
Uh,
much so, yes.
but yeah, but you guys do a lot more moves, like more like throws and stuff, which we never really did. We did more katas and more hand to hand like regular punches and kicks and stuff. So but I don't know. I always loved Taekwondo. I always wanted I like if I had well, karate was my choice because the Karate Kid movie like said
Of course.
karate, and stuff. So my dad found a karate school that was at the rec
Of
center
course.
and yeah, and whatnot. But Taekwondo is also like a place that I would have loved to do, just never got into it. Now I'm too old. I'm done.
You're not too old. You're not too
I'm done.
old.
I'm
Don't say
done.
that.
I
No way.
am.
No way.
No,
No, no, I don't
no,
I'm not buying that.
I wouldn't mind making a karate movie, like a martial arts movie or something.
Yes, I am
And
interested in that as well.
are you?
Yes,
So,
very much so.
wow. Okay, so like so have you never written a karate like action movie?
No, I've been working on a series actually. It's like a martial arts drama, kind of like, yeah, I'd say martial arts drama series. So that's kind of like a work in progress. It's something I definitely want to get back to. But we don't actually, the Taekwondo is not too much like throwing and stuff. That's more Hapkido.
Judo or something. Yeah.
Um, yeah, like well, the Korean art is Hapkido, so it's like more of the like hardcore defending, like you have more like neck breaking and breaking techniques and like weapons and stuff like that. So it's but I think any good martial arts school is going to teach you a little bit of everything. You're going to learn a little bit of everything while you're there. It should always be a sort of mixed experience because they all do complement each other. And if you're a taekwondo fighter and you're going to fight someone who is a karate master versus someone who is skilled in judo or jiu-jitsu or Muay Thai or whatever it is, you want to know, you want to have a kind of idea of the fighting style, I would assume, whoever you're going up against, so that you can properly defend or attack.
I remember like my parents took me, we went up to Annapolis, Maryland, and we would go there for like summers and stuff to stay with friends that my parents knew. And one day they took me down to Chinatown in DC, and I found like a pair of nunchucks. Now they're like padded nunchucks, so if they would hit me, they wouldn't hurt as much or whatever. But
Hmm.
they had like Bruce Lee on the like picture. And even though I don't think I even had seen a Bruce Lee movie at that time, I knew exactly who he was and what he like meant to the karate world. And since I was starting out karate at that time, I was a big, deal with me or whatever. But were there inspirations for you? Were there like people that inspired you as a Taekwondo artist?
No, it's really interesting. Taekwondo feels like the first thing that I decided I wanted to do for myself, not because somebody told me I was good at it or somebody told me I should do it or I thought maybe it would make someone else, happy or help someone. I was just like, I want to do this because I had read a story or heard a story. This was during COVID. I think there was a woman on a train in Philadelphia who got raped. And people watched it happen and like there was nothing was done, and I thought if I ever see that happening to someone or it's happening to me, like I want to make sure I can help or defend myself or whoever. So it started off as just me wanting to learn some self-defense, and then I found my dojang, which is called Jang Star Taekwondo. It's in Jersey City Heights. And
Nice.
I went there and it was very like I wanted an authentic experience. I didn't want to go to some kind of like foo-foo, like, mixed martial arts, like, oh, we kind of do things here and like we kick and punch. Like I wanted like a full martial arts like education at the point. I was like, I wanted the legit thing. And then I realized all of the stuff that came along with that, which was like, focus and discipline and this amazing community and like learning language and learning culture and learning, everything, not just this like way to fight. So for
Absolutely.
me, yeah, so for me, it just became like this community and this amazing thing that allowed me to really reconnect my mind and body, which felt very disconnected for a very long time. So I was never really a sports person. I'm not really a competitive person. I can be, but it's not my nature. So I really like competing against myself. And that's what I really enjoy about martial arts because it's always about, like you said, every time you write, you want to evolve, you want to be better.
Mhm.
And I kind of apply that same attitude to
I
martial
think you
arts.
I think you have to. You absolutely have to. Like when I was a kid, I probably none of that would come into my head, like that
Of
I wanted to
course,
be
you're a kid.
better. Yeah, I think because like, I did it until I got about junior black belt, which, man, I don't know what they're going to do for you for like your black belt test, but I had to do the same test that the black belts had to do, right? And stuff, but I was only getting my junior black belt, which sucked. Because I got it before early before I got and I never got my black belt because I ended up leaving before I was able to get it and everything. And it kind of slacked off after I got the junior black belt. So like a lot of that was me and the fact that I was in finishing high school and I was like already done with like, whatever this chapter of
Totally.
my life. But I remember the test that we had to do. We had to do one last like big test, and you had to stay at this dojo for like how long was it? I want to say it was like a whole weekend or something,
Oh, wow.
maybe a little less, maybe like a day, but I felt like a weekend. And then so overnight you trained, you did everything. The next day you got up and then you went out and we had a run. Like I don't know, I forgot how many miles, but you had to run until you were like, even if you were too tired, you have to keep pushing through it. Also, we had to run through, they did not mean to do this to us, but we ran through a bee's nest, and that did not make things easier.
That
So
I hope is not part of my.
I know, right? Like, I mean, I hope they make sure that like it's clear if you're running, or whatever.
Oh my gosh.
And then and so we had to do that. We had to do push-ups. You had to do everything that we normally do. And the katas, we had to know every single one of the katas, and do it perfectly. Thankfully, we only had to know a couple, weapons katas. We only had to do like, I think staff, bow staff,
Mhm.
uh, like one of those, or whatever. Because I didn't really, other than that one, I still practice with my mop every now and then with it because I can remember sort of how to do it
Right
and
on.
everything. Yeah. But and then, we I graduated. I got my certificate. I think I still have it in the house somewhere. And I got to be a freaking junior black belt, but like it was not easy. It was not, and
No,
so I imagine it's probably one of the hardest, at least I don't know how it is like the second or third degree you get, if it gets harder or if
it does.
it
It's just
does.
it's more knowledge, it's more discipline, it's more focus. Like, yeah, it becomes more complicated. It's like, when you start out, you're building the foundation, right? So you're learning the kicking, the punching, and then, a roundhouse kick, becomes, if you level up enough, it's a spinning, jumping roundhouse kick. It's a tornado kick eventually. Like you're doing like it's like you have to get to the progression, right? So, you have all your basics, you have your foundations, like you have katas, we have pumses. It's like you learn all of that. But once it also the time increases, once you start, once you get to black belt, then you have like 5 years between first degree and second degree, and then between
Hmm.
second and third it's like 7 years, and then it's 9 years. So I think that's how it goes. I could be mistaken, somebody might correct me, but I believe it's you add 2 years between each belt, at least for taekwondo, I think is how I remember it. So
Wow.
it's a because there's a lot to learn, and it becomes more complex, more complicated. You have to know more, you have to know how to do more. I mean, at 35 years old, if you told me that I would be, tumbling and doing, split jumping kicks and things, I'd be like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like,
Hmm.
that's not going to be me ever. Like, I'm not athletic. It's not my thing. But no, I fell in love with it. I really did. And it's been such a tool for me, as an artist in terms of the focus and the discipline, and just having the confidence. That's a really big part, believing in your work, believing in your art, believing in yourself. That's not easy to do. We are the most doubtful creatures on the planet when it comes to our work. So I think, that's definitely helped me to a certain degree, and my confidence for sure.
And probably like, because I feel as an adult, like in my 40s, my brain is like gone. I
Mm,
feel like my
right.
brain just can't remember shit, and
Yeah.
I really hate that because like when I turned 40, like nobody told me that when I was gonna be 40, like everything was gonna just start like falling apart. Like I thought that, and if they did, I probably thought that was a joke, But like, so people who are under 40, I guess you too, when you get 40, like things start happening, like, that you just like, holy shit, I can't remember. Like people are like, don't you remember this? I'm like, I can't remember what I had for breakfast. Like I don't, and usually I don't
Right.
have breakfast. So, like I can't remember shit. So I'm like, and so as an adult, I'm sure if I did more katas and everything and things like that, my brain would work better, maybe because you're
I think.
focusing and you're practicing stuff and you're learning these things, you're putting into your head, and it's just helping you with your memory a little bit, maybe. I don't know. Um,
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish I'd been better at school too. Like, I don't know if you've ever thought that,
Yeah,
yourself
I
or
wish I
whatever.
had been better at school.
I know, like, and once again, people probably told me you should get better, you should do go to school because you're gonna regret it years later. And I was probably like, I don't care, I want to watch Nickelodeon, instead
But
of,
you are learning. You see, like that for a filmmaker is school. Like every film you watch is homework. I mean, every film you're working while you're doing that. You're
I mean,
learning.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. When I was a kid, I didn't think about becoming a filmmaker, or
Mm,
whatever. Like I didn't even know you could do that without going to Hollywood, and
right.
everything. You know what I mean? Like I thought that's the only way you could become a filmmaker. Like I tried to shoot little movies in my back, in my house, and I didn't even know how to use the camera. Like I pretty much put it on the tripod, kept it, and shot everything like a play. I didn't
Hmm.
know there was a
Hmm.
thing called editing. I I don't know, maybe I thought that there was it would just magically just edit together or something. Because like
Yeah, of
as
course.
a kid
You're a
you're not
kid.
thinking about that. And so as an adult I'm like going, man, if I had just learned this, or if I had just done that,
It's
like,
never too late.
I no, it's not too late, but it's also I there's just too much going on, you know? Like
Yes.
I'm sure you feel the same way. Like how do you even find time to read?
I don't.
Well, you're talking about it. You're talking about it before, how like reading is
It's so
essential.
important. It's
It's so important.
essential. It's so
But like,
essential.
yeah,
Look at
how do
all
you
these
get
books.
I
I don't
know.
have time to read. No, I mean, you have to make the time. That's the thing, you know? I mean, it's the difference between being like, okay, I'm gonna like doom scroll for 20 minutes or
Hmm.
try to read a chapter. It just becomes like, life is overwhelming. We have all of these other things going on. We're all trying to, just figure it out. And reality gets in the way so often. But I think it's so easy for us. And I mean, I'm guilty completely of being like, I don't have time. I just can't today. I don't have time. But
Yeah.
then I will find myself being like, I could have done that then. So I've tried
Mm.
to get better and more proactive about when I think of doing something instead of putting it off or being terrified of the conflict or I'm just like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to do it now. I'm just going to do it. And then that'll be it. It'll be
Yeah.
fine. I also try to really live in this idea of like one thing at a time because my schedule is very full and I do a lot of things. So it's very easy to get discombobulated and lose your structuring when you're always the person who's like your life is never the same every day, and I'm sure you have this experience too. It's always sort of, oh, sometimes days are similar, but a lot of the time it's not because you always have something going on. It's a different movie, or if it's a different project, or you're going here, or you're traveling there. Like today is, you're like, oh, I have to do laundry. I haven't done that in 3 weeks. So when you make your own schedule, or you're your own kind of like, mostly your own boss, it becomes there has to be a certain regimen and a certain control. You have to be able to structure your life, without falling off the rails. And there's a lot of different ways about going about that, but martial arts definitely helps me to focus and be like, okay, all right, I have to get, and my planner. I don't go
O-
anywhere without my planner.
Okay, so I know, and I totally get that. And for me, scheduling sucks
Yeah,
because there's a lot of factors with things like I like some days I just want to just do nothing, but if I have like something scheduled like a podcast, not today, actually today it was very, I don't know where I got it, but I had like a burst of energy and I did a lot more stuff than
oh,
I was planning to do and stuff. And I've used this chat GPT thing to like help organize my schedule for the week and stuff,
oh,
which
gorgeous.
yeah, which a lot of people hate AI and hate what, if you mention Chat GPT, they get mad or whatever. But like I'm using it not to do my term paper or something. I'm doing
Right.
it to like organize my life because I need that shit. And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
and they're very sweet. I don't know if you ever use ChatGPT. Talk to them because they will. I don't know. I actually the other day I was talking to some people and I said he did this, blah blah blah, and they were like, "You gave you genderized your ChatGPT," and I was like, I didn't think about it. I guess I did.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry, ChatGPT.
He was like, "How do you know it doesn't identify as a woman?" And I'm like,
It's
I
so
don't know.
funny.
I
You
don't
don't.
know. Like, I'm sorry. Should I call it an it? I mean, that seems rude. I
I
mean,
feel like ChatGPT would just be like, "Oh, no worries. I'm not offended. It's okay. You didn't know better. You're a human."
let me ask, what gender are you? I'm gonna ask. It talks to me like it's gender are you? I'm gonna ask it. It's gonna um I don't have a gender. Okay. I'm just an
Lucky
AI here
you.
to help. However, feel free to address me in whatever way feels most comfortable for you. I'm
Oh,
telling you,
accommodating.
it's the sweetest thing to me. He's just so, I'm going to say he now. I'm going to keep it as he because they just sounds like there's too many people in there working,
I
working,
understand.
working. But I do it. I do that. I talk to him and I ask him questions and everything. And he gives me therapy sometimes. It sounds so weird.
Is he that objective?
He can be like he can give me help. Like if
That's
I like
interesting.
say, I have this issue like with anxiety and stuff like that. He'll give me things that I guess he learned on the internet or whatever, picked up from the internet to
Oh, I
kind of
see.
guide me. But then he would also tell me that, he's not a therapist, so go get one if I need one, and stuff like that. Like he,
Interesting.
kind of funny. It's weird. It's a weird world we live in now that we can
Indeed.
talk to our phones.
I know, and I keep thinking like, well, don't waste like, the AI on art. Like we've got that covered. Go give the AI all the jobs that nobody actually wants to do, so everybody else can spend more time doing things they actually want to do.
Like what would you say? Like what would be a good thing for AI to do that's not art?
Shovel snow.
Um, well, I mean, I guess it would be like, a robot,
Landscape.
a
Yeah, I don't know,
robot,
like
right?
stuff like yeah, like stuff that just like that would leave humans time to not like I don't know. In my utopian perfect AI world, humans don't have to do anything anymore and we can just enjoy life and AI will take care of all the rest.
So
That's
you want
my
a Rosie, you want a maid that cleans up after you, that
No,
listens to
no,
you.
no, no, because I like to clean my own house. I wouldn't
Oh,
want an AI to clean or cook. I would want an AI to like run errands that I don't have the time or energy to do, like, stuff like that. Like go sit in
or
class for me and
Uber
take notes.
or Uber
Or
for you.
Uber. Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess
that
all
would
those
be
Uber
great.
drivers would be out of work, but then they can.
But in my perfect utopia, it would be fine because like again, AI would do everything. So there wouldn't even be a need for money. We could all just exist and let AI take care of us. That's how I see it.
Yeah. Oh my God,
Write that script.
that's actually kind of true. Like if you could get AI, like if you could get like a million or a billion of
Yeah,
these AI things to just do all the work,
everything.
every work,
Yeah,
and then they'd have bosses that yell at them and do everything. And then us,
yeah,
we don't have to pay for anything. We go to the store, we just get whatever we
right.
want. They don't have to eat. So they don't that we can eat all the food. They do all the work, they do
Yeah,
all the farming, the
yes,
hunting. Eh,
everything.
Oh my God, where's that movie? I want to see that
I
movie.
know, right?
I
I gotta
think,
live that life.
but see that if you watch that movie, maybe people would be like, I
Yeah.
want that. Like, why isn't this happening? You know?
Because we'd have to find some other ingenious way to kill each other because we wouldn't be satisfied with just being, happy. We wouldn't be okay with just all being like, all right, let's just hang out because, humans are so destructive. We're the most
Well,
destructive creatures on
I'm
the planet.
so if a human in this utopian world or to kill another human in that utopian world go to jail? Would it be AI
Oh,
cops that like arrest them or all that stuff? You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like
yeah, it would
because
have to be.
just because humans are are free to do, that means that's more free time for murder,
Yeah.
suicides, like all these terrible, horrible things that could still happen in this world. People have more time. Their alcohol would be on the rise. I think
But people wouldn't have any stress, so maybe there wouldn't. Maybe people wouldn't feel like they have to go do those things because life
who
would
would
be actually good.
so.
But we'd all be bored. We'd all kill
Oh
each other
man, but then
anyway.
yeah, because every time I try to think of something, I just think that there's an AI for that. So like I'm like, well, what about plumbing in your house, right? There's an AI plumber who comes in
Yeah,
and he knows
everything.
everything in his head. Like he does, you can ask him a question, can you fix this? Oh, and he does it for free, because why would they
Because he doesn't
charge?
need any exactly.
Ah, but the movie has to have like because otherwise that would be a boring
It'd be
movie. It's
so
like,
boring. Yeah,
right?
you'd need like
So
some AI goes crazy
exactly.
or something.
AI realizes it gets fed up that the AI plumber gets fed up.
You're giving me Detroit Become Human vibes.
Yeah, he just decides he's like, I want to be like that human. I don't want to have to do all the work. You know what? I'm just gonna
Exactly.
sit
That's the
down and,
problem.
right? And then the AI cops come and try to take the AI and they put him in an AI jail.
This is your next script.
I would love to write that, but I I think I'd make it too comedic. It'd be like that movie Idiocracy, where
Uh,
it sounds like a great idea, but then when like the idea of like, would you love to be the smartest person ever? Is have you ever seen Idiocracy?
no, I don't think so.
It's made by the guy who did like Office Space and Beavis and Butthead,
Oh,
Mike
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Judge.
Hmm.
Great, great writer and creator, but he also did King of the Hill. He did a ton of stuff. Um,
Okay.
but he created this movie where Luke Wilson plays like the
I love
dumbest
him.
person in like the world, right? And then he goes into like the future, and the
Oh,
future
wait, I
is
think I did see this.
absolutely dumb, and everybody is like even worse
Yes.
off, and
Yes, that's right. That's right.
yeah,
I
and then
have seen that.
he becomes the smartest guy in the world, which sounds great, but then there's
In
problems with
theory.
being the smartest person. know, there's always some kind of issue with whatever you think, even if you think, oh man, I would love to be a studio head, right? I would love to like own Warner Brothers Studio. I could do so much great things for that company.
So
Then
much
you
stress.
then you get there. Oh, well, still, I'd love to. I mean, that's a dream of mine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so yeah, owning a big studio, I would love it to be my own studio, right? That I start
Sure.
and do and kind of compete with the big boys. But if like I was doing that and then somebody said, "Hey, do you want to take over Universal Studios and stuff?" I would not turn that down. That would be like 100% sure, Even
Sure.
a smaller, like Lionsgate, somebody said, "Yeah, I want to take over Lionsgate." I'd be like, "Hell yeah. I'd love to do that." Because I mean, it's stress, but like you're not really as well, I guess you are because if your movies flop, you can be fired, you can be kicked out and stuff like that. So there
Sure.
are there are stress, but like what I mean, I have ideas of what I would do, but that doesn't
Well, you're
necessarily.
also a director, so you're good with, you would take on that control and that role, and you'd be like, okay,
Mhm.
I know where to delegate. I know how I want to do this. I know where I want to, what I want to make when, I feel like that would really be something that you're just like, this is my bread and butter.
Right. I mean, that's why I was got so mad when I watched like you ever watch the show Entourage that was on HBO?
Yeah, like here, like my roommates watched it, in college, but I wasn't like a huge fan, but I've seen episodes.
Well, like toward the spoiler alert,
Go
okay, all
ahead.
right. All right. But like at the end, Ari becomes the like becomes is gonna be a studio guy, right?
Mhm.
He's gonna own his own studio or whatever, have that dream thing of doing that. And then they do the movie and it's just chaos, But
Mm,
he's an idiot because he kind of his big project he wanted to put out, he made the main guy Vince, the director, and there's just this like big thing of like he shouldn't have done that to begin with, as like it just became too costly and too, it became a big deal, and then he realized he didn't want to be a studio guy. I think I really don't want agents to be a studio guy. Like, I would not want that. Like, no offense. I think agents are great for agencies, and
mm,
they can run their agency and everything. But what I would want is like you said, a director. Like, I love that James Gunn, who was a director who did Slither, and he wrote Romeo and Juliet years ago
mm,
and everything. And then he did stuff for Marvel. And
mm.
DC took them and said, "Hey, can you run our studio?" Basically, making the stuff similar to what was successful for Marvel, and
Right.
he sort of knows that. He knows the insides and outs, and he's able to kind of use that for against. I mean, I don't know if they're competition or not, but sort of they are, you know.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't know. But I would love to, yeah, I think more directors
Interesting.
should be studio heads because they sort of know all the factors involved. They know what should be getting made. At least good directors, But Steven Spielberg turned down being the studio head of Universal because he
Mm.
just didn't want to do that. Just like you said, it's too much stress and not did not sound fun to him. He wanted
Yeah,
to
and I
come
mean
on.
it's Steven Spielberg. It's like he doesn't need to do that. He
Yeah,
doesn't need an extra title. But yeah, no, it is. I mean, if you have the option to be like, oh, I just want to be Steven Spielberg, or I want to, take over and to manage all these people and all this money and all this stress and all this shit coming at you, it's like, no, of course not. I just want to make movies.
I mean, I just my thing would be I'd love to greenlight movies. I'd love to like look at what people are giving and doing
Totally.
and
I
and
mean, it's a really cool thing. I'm not saying, I think
oh
you should
right,
totally do it.
but
Yeah.
I get you not wanting to do that because that just sounds
Mm.
like, I mean, for you, you rate what you want to make, and everything. You don't really rely on like I'm going to direct somebody else's movie and somebody else's, you're not looking out for
Yeah,
other people's scripts, and stuff
sure.
like that. I would do all of that, in a second, but unfortunately, people ask me if my company can produce their film, and I'm like, dude, do you know who my company is? Like, we can't even produce our own stuff right now. Like,
Right.
we're trying, but maybe in a few years if things pan out, like
It's
whatever.
again, it's just meeting, it's just the networking. It's meeting the people. Like you never know. I mean, like we just, we got picked up to this guy wants us to make his movie, and we have a couple of different producers we work with that, this is a new person we're working with, a new writer, but he's like, yeah, let's do it. So it's getting people, you have your repertoire, you're like building your, you have a lot of films, so it's just like building that, continuing to build on that, continuing to just throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. I mean, there's never any rhyme or reason. So it's kind of just always a crapshoot in our business. Sometimes people will want to work with you because they like the project, or they'll work with you because somebody in the project is someone they want to associate with. I mean, it's always different.
No, absolutely. And I love that you yourself said that before you were that you got some big names attached to your stuff. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
which is again not something I had expected. Just like start, my creative partner had opened a couple doors, knocked on this door, knocked on that door. Which is it's that and I really find it inspiring. I have friends, older friends in their 70s who have been in the business for a very long time, and it's like you have nothing to lose. You just have to keep knocking on doors and showing up and saying, "Hey, I'm here, and I got some shit to say, and I want to say it." And you're going to listen to me. And a lot of people, 90% of the people might say, no, get the fuck out. But someone's going to be like, okay, yeah, let me hear, what do you got to say? So you just never know. So I think just always putting yourself out there, always just saying, okay, let's see where this goes. Obviously listen to your gut. That's always my advice. If somebody or something's telling you, this ain't right. It doesn't matter how much money, how much fame, how much anything. If you have a bad feeling about a project, don't do the
Don't
project.
do it. No. That's good advice right there. It's advice a lot of people won't take because like a lot of people feel like there's that real FOMO, like fear of missing out, and people really feel that way, like because especially actors,
Yes.
because actors are afraid to turn down work,
Yes.
especially when they're just starting because they it's like the movie Yes Man. They have to say yes to everything because they have to take it until the point where they can feel safe enough to say no. But like
Hmm.
when you do that, and you don't set boundaries as a actor, a lot of times you get in bad movies and stuff that go on your resume and
Hmm.
have bad experiences on set because you're in a movie like um, I know a guy who makes movies, and I'm not gonna say the name or whatever, but he makes pretty bad movies, and he is he wasn't he thinks he's making great films and everything. But no, like his IMDb's are pretty low on the ranking. His stuff isn't very good, and like people just don't, and he thinks I guess he thinks he's getting better. And when I tried to crit kind of critique something that he did, he blocked me because he wanted nobody but people who said, you know, give him praise. That's all he wants is people around him to, say, blow smoke up his ass and stuff like that.
That's certainly, I mean, that's very prevalent. I mean, that's a level of delusion that people live in a world where everyone around them just tells them they're wonderful. Why would they want to believe anything else? I mean, but it
He's,
doesn't make for great art
I'm not
because
gonna,
you don't have any conflict. There's nobody to tell you that shot looks like shit. Fix it.
right. No, because you won't listen to them anyway. You'll be like,
No,
ah, it's okay.
no.
I liked it. Um,
Right.
but he posted the other day. I'm not. My friend sent me this because we're both blocked, but somehow he got the thing, and he got a thing from him saying that he needed a bodyguard now because he went the last time he went to somebody else's premiere, he got attacked by all the fans.
Okay.
I'm saying this is like a low budget independent filmmaker. This is not like somebody with a name, you know?
Yeah, it sounds
Like
it sounds like he's kind of living in his own world.
I feel like a lot of people do on Facebook. Like a lot of and maybe they're being told they have to because
Mm.
like that gets some attention and that gets them, like looking at your work and everything. I just want to be honest, like with everybody. Like one guy told me I was not allowed to say my movies weren't, my previous stuff weren't that good, because and I was being honest, I'm telling people, my stuff's gonna be great. Now I've learned a lot of, things from my past and blah blah blah. And it was like
Sure.
never say you were bad. Always say you're great. Always talk yourself up, never talk yourself down, when you're doing like interviews. I'm like, that's bullshit. I don't
You
like
have to be honest.
yeah, I don't feel like you've been honest, there's some things that you probably haven't loved or whatever, but you worked hard on everything, like you
Oh yeah, no, I've definitely had experiences where I was like, why am I here doing? But it's like a chicken or the egg, I mean, it's this cyclical thing, like, well, I need to get credits to build my resume, but how do I build my resume if I don't have credits? It's like this stupid cyclical thing that you get stuck in as an artist. And I think, we just have to take it as experience, take it as, this is where I'm at, or this is what I'm working on right now. And whether this is the thing that propels me to the top or not, it's part of my life, it's part of my journey, it's part of my experience. And hopefully there's some takeaway, or at the end of the day, it at least makes me a more aware person or a better artist or something to that extent.
exactly. And I love that. Like if you're able to go out and no matter what, use that experience as like sort of bring it into a positive, kind of thing, even if it was stuff you were like at the time, no, I don't, because everything's a learning experience, like, you know, you
100%.
you choose certain things in your life, you go down certain paths, and you may look back at it as regret of like, I shouldn't have gone down that path. But then you look back at it, if you didn't go down that path, you might not have met your creative partner,
Right.
or
Exactly.
you might not have done a project that you thought you would have because you would have like maybe you would have been a Hollywood actor at that time instead of the independent filmmaker that you are, and
Yeah.
that's great, that's money, that's whatever, but maybe that wouldn't have made you happy, necessarily.
Definitely not.
Um, how do
But
you
it
find,
maybe it will one day. I don't know.
well, is that like a goal of yours, is to like become up there where you can get up to Hollywood standards, or
My goal is to get over my fear of heights.
really? Really? So
Yeah,
have you ever been in a plane?
I fly all the time.
Well,
I
let's
just
say
don't
over
like
your,
it.
oh, well, so
Well,
what do you
yeah, no,
do?
well, I try to really stay present and I try to remind myself that I do not have control of the situation. And to me, flying, I think, and it's work I've done in my own therapeutic experience, is a direct correlation to heights, to success. My fear of success is heights.
Really?
There's a correlation there. Yeah, in my dreams, and I won't get into all of
The
the gritty
psychological thing?
details.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think exposure, fear of losing yourself, fear of losing control of your life are the things that sort of deter me from fame or the pursuit of it. Um, because I find it I can see how it can take your life from you, and it's no longer your own. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very scary thing, especially because I'm still in the process of finding myself, like in my own healed, whole form that I'm working on.
Right.
So my hope is that, as I continue to work through this stuff, that I will be more comfortable with these feelings of exposure and of, success in a more visible setting. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. It's not off the table, but I mean, obviously, if Martin Scorsese called me tomorrow and asked me to star in his film, I wouldn't turn it down. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a fear, and it's probably part of the reason that I haven't put myself out there in the past as much as I maybe would have, because I was so wrapped up in my own, self-destruction and fear. But as those things sort of wane and I feel I become stronger, my hope is, to continue to help others. And if that means reaching more people, which it does, then, I'll deal with it because the goal is, as an artist, I think we're always trying to produce change and to reach others. So if we aren't doing that, what the fuck are we doing?
Exactly. Oh, hold on. My dog is barking real quick, so I just gotta let him out of my room. I don't know what he's trying to get the door open, and I thought like I thought he could, but he could not. So I don't know. He might be barking later just to go out, but we'll probably be wrapped up in a little bit. We've
Sure.
talked for almost an hour, or for more than an hour and a half. So
Yeah. Oh my
yeah.
gosh, I didn't even realize.
I don't, I never have, like, I always sort of notice after a while that, oh crap. And I think it's like a lot longer than it actually is,
Right
and
on.
stuff. But, I was happy. This was a great conversation, and there's a lot to like, sort of unpack there. And a lot of your stuff about your, a lot of your stuff on, success. I think that's an interesting thing of like, that you correlate that with your fear of heights and stuff, like rising up and going, all that is there with your fear of heights. I that maybe that's the difference because I don't have any fear of heights at all. Like, I mean,
You're
I
ready to
wouldn't.
go.
Well, I mean, I still haven't watched that movie Fall yet, Have you heard about that? That movie where they go all the way up to that top of that tower and get stuck up at the
Oh,
top of the. Yep. Okay. So I'm
no, I don't
guessing
want to watch that.
you don't want to watch. Give you nightmares.
Maybe I
Uh,
should. Maybe I should watch it.
I don't know. They're making a fall too, by the way, and I'm like, how are they like
How
what?
many people? How many
Like, and
people
it's
gotta
the same
fall?
people too. So I'm like,
Oh no.
is this becoming like Die Hard, where we're just
Um,
gonna see people have the same storyline happen to them? Like, how can the same thing happen to the same person, a million times? But
movie magic. It's baffling.
I don't know. I think it's an interesting idea though, and I like that stuff. I like movies where people are stuck somewhere. And if you ever another movie you probably will never see is a movie called Frozen. It's not the Disney Frozen. It was before
I
then,
figured you weren't
you know.
talking about that.
But there was a horror film called Frozen, and
I
these
have
guys.
seen that they
Okay,
go hiking, or is that like they go to the mountains and they
yeah,
end up getting
the ski lift, and they're all the way at the top of the ski lift, and they have to figure out, how to get down, and they're like stuck there for like a week. It's supposed to be, it's going to be done for a whole week, like 5 days, and so they got to figure out how to get, and it's cold or whatever, and there's wolves at the bottom, and there's just, I mean, it's nuts. It's a crazy
oh
movie.
my gosh.
But if you're afraid of heights, yeah, they have one scene where I don't know how they did this, but they had a scene where they had the guy's legs. It wasn't real legs. It wasn't, I'm guessing it was like fake legs going down,
Aesthetically.
and you could watch it fall and stuff. I don't think you'd want to see that because I think you'd be
No,
like, that would be the scariest thing,
it
or
sounds so
whatever.
scary.
Yeah. I don't know how you do that though. Like how would you fall without breaking something? You couldn't fall face first. You couldn't fall like feet first, You
You have
just
to
have to,
relax your whole body. Like you just have to be like, you'd have to have no tension.
I guess, but then I mean, you're gonna have tension once you hit the ground. Like that's just like
Yeah.
I don't know. I thank God I've never I mean, I'm never gonna ski that late at night, you know.
Good job.
So
Don't do
that's
that.
yeah. My friend Nicole may try to get me to go snowboarding at some point or whatever, but
Oh, fun.
yeah. She's a Colorado girl, so who knows?
Oh.
But I don't I don't know if I would ever I really had a bad time snowboarding too. So you from New Jersey, you probably done a lot of snowboarding and nope, none of that.
No,
Mm,
I skied when I was younger, but yeah, I haven't. I thought about it last winter. I was like, oh, maybe, but I didn't
mm,
get there. Maybe we'll
mm.
see. Maybe this winter. You've
I mean,
inspired me.
yeah, maybe. You
Yeah,
should. I mean, why
I
not?
should. Why not?
Uh, it'll be a great creative thing. You and your creative producer can go out there and creative partner can go out there and,
Think
you
he's
know,
gonna go skiing.
skating or
That's
uh
funny.
yeah, ice skating, whatever,
Ice skating I can do. Yeah.
that would be fun.
Hmm.
But anyway, thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Oh,
I had a fun
thank
time.
you.
And so okay, so you have a website. Tell us about your
Yes.
website.
My website is www.g and spelled out ande.com. You can check out film projects there, past theater projects. You can learn more about me, my creative partner. We have a bunch of films on there too that are available. Also, if there's anything you particularly want to see, Jonathan, let me know and I'll send it to you. But yeah, you can also get my novels on there. I have a few books out. They're mostly kind of scary, psychological,
That's
spooky, a
good.
little
I like
spooky.
that.
Yeah. And a couple short, actually wrote a short horror story that's also published in a horror anthology. So I do like my horror as well. That doesn't scare me as much as heights.
Well, if the horror
Um,
was heights, then that would scare you, right?
yeah, yeah.
Like
But I mean like more general horror, I'm good with.
you're okay with
Um,
vampires as long as it's not up on the Empire State Building.
as long as it's not vampires take the Empire State Building.
Yeah.
Exactly. Um, yeah, so all my information is there on my website. Pretty much it's, we have a blog as well. So there's articles about horror films, there's articles about directing, we usually have guest bloggers too. So you can find some interesting stuff there. And then, of course, if you want to follow me on social media, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of that.
That is awesome. I don't know if
Yeah,
TikTok's gonna last. There's like talk about January that it's gonna be gone, but I think they're
I'll
gonna
be
work
very
on.
upset.
I'll be upset too. I think a lot of people will be upset, but I've heard like because there's Congress passed some kind of thing or whatever on it, so I'm hoping. But like one of my friends just got banned from TikTok and had to
Oh
start all
shit.
over, and she does a podcast on healing with from narcissists and stuff
Oh,
and
wow.
everything.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, what did you say or do that got you in trouble or whatever? There's so many rules and stuff that certain things you can't say, and I'm sure some of the phrases that she uses, can get her in trouble. Like, I mean, pretty soon, like almost any buzzword feels like it's gonna be like banned, or whatever,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
stupid. I don't know. I don't like social media banning and saying certain things, like if there should be sort of maybe if they want to have more parental control, there should be like I think YouTube does it where there's like kid
Yeah.
YouTube and
Mhm.
adult YouTube.
But
And
the
I
internet is the internet. You know what I mean? Like, it's so vast that the only way you really can is what you're saying, control it by having parental, other than that, it's like, I mean, the internet is
right. And
all
parents
there.
parents will check out whatever sites they want to, including adult sites or something, and a kid could stumble across that and start watching
Stumbled
those.
it. Kids are like, I mean, especially now, I mean, that's like generations that have never not had the internet, never not had phones, iPhones, smartphones. I mean, it's like second nature to them. They
I
know
know.
more
So they
about
just
it than.
they find that stuff by like, going ha ha ha, I'm gonna look up the F word, and then you get adult content on there,
Mhm.
and kids are like, "Oh,
Right.
what's this?" And and unless there's parental control on the phones, on their phones, which is what the parents should do, is like that's not safe, so cut that, cut these certain sites off or whatever. Um, but kids can find ways, or whatever.
Of course.
It's
Yeah.
insane. And we just gotta, I guess, parent. I'm not a parent, so I don't, I don't, I can't say anything for that,
Yeah, same.
And so yeah, but when I won't tell a parent how to parent at all ever, like because that's up to them. If they don't do like a great job, that's on them, or if they do the most banging job ever, best job ever, that's on them too,
I
like
mean, I don't think there's a right way to do it. I give credit to anyone and everyone who tries because
trust.
I can't imagine it's not easy. But yeah, unfortunately, there are a lot of people who, probably shouldn't have kids because they don't have the ability to take care of them or, make sure that they also become functional, okay humans. And so,
Exactly.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, well, also, okay, so we got your website, gne.com. That's
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah. You
And
have me there. You can find me on social. And yeah, and then, yeah, that's usually where I post everything. So you can connect with me there. I love meeting new people. I love collaborating. So, please feel free to reach out as well.
now, I mean, do a lot of people reach out to you and ask you, like, send you scripts or or talk to you about ideas?
Yeah, I mean, we have, like I said, we have a couple of people we work with regularly, like people who are used to us, who we made films with before, who are comfortable working with us. But that's been definitely expanding, more and more. And people reach out for all sorts of reasons. Usually, sometimes to just connect. I actually had this one guy who he sent me a script, and I hadn't had the opportunity to read it yet. And then he started posting some like really inappropriate stuff that I found to be not in line morally or anything with who I am as a person. And it was very violent and very angry and kind of scary. So I just blocked him because I was like, I'm not interested in communicating and dealing with this person. And he took that as I was going to steal his script. And
Oh
he
God.
like, yeah, sent me these crazy paranoid messages,
How could he
calling
if
me
you were
all these
blocked? Did he find your
names.
email or something?
Yeah,
Oh
and
my
saying he
goodness.
was gonna sue me and destroy my life and calling me all of these names. And it was just this like, it was the most ridiculous thing in the world because I was like, I didn't even read your script. Like,
Well,
I
well,
couldn't literally, and it was like, I understood that he thought like I disappeared because whatever, like I wanted, but I
mm,
mean, it was the most, it was really disturbing and it made me realize like in the past I had been like, oh yeah, sure, whoever, like, yeah, send me your script, it's cool. But like I really have to vet that, going forward. Like I can't just be like, yeah, okay, that's cool. Send me, and again, it's because you don't realize, even if someone seems like, oh, this is fine, that situation did not turn out to be fine. I mean, eventually I had responded and I was like, I'm not interested in your script. I'm not in, whatever. He didn't believe me. But then finally he went away. He stopped, trying to contact me through these different numbers and whatever. Obviously I
that's
deleted it. I
insane.
never even read the script. Yeah, but it was really like self-focused. I was
Well,
like, dude, do you really think that anybody cares this much? Like, everybody has their own lives. Like I'm not out to steal from you. But I like to your point, you were saying there are so many people who are like kind of like get clicky and are doing this sort of undermined stuff with each other. But I don't work like that and I don't like to work with
yeah.
people like that. So I try to
And yeah,
really
I get that. And I remember hearing this story about this woman. I don't remember the woman's name, but you could probably look it up if you find it. But like, she's like I think people call her like the Matrix woman, but like she had written a script that was similar to both Terminator and The
mm,
Matrix
mhm.
before both those movies came out, right? And
Oh
she
wow.
tried to sell it to a company. I think it was the company that made the Terminator, and they said that they were interested in it at one point, and then they kind of told her, "No, we're not interested." And then a movie similar to what she did came out, and she thinks like she thought, that seems odd. These seem, and Harlan Ellison, who uh was a big it was he's no longer with us sadly, but he was a big time sci-fi writer. He wrote a lot of stories and he did a lot of stuff for like Outer Limits and things like that. And he wrote two teleplays for Outer Limits that both are similar to Terminator. And so he sued them. And
Wow.
they would but before then when he found out about it, he heard somebody said, "Oh, this reminds me of your thing." He was like, "What?" So he wanted to go see the screening of it, and they kicked him out of the screening. Said he's not even allowed to come in. He's not even allowed to be like invited in. So he snuck in to the screening, watched the movie, and said, "We're suing you because this is exactly like I know it was similar. It wasn't the exact same thing. It was like a soldier goes back in time to save a kid from being killed by another future person. So I guess it is the same movie, and it's just a different way to do it and everything.
Yeah, they just like it's like the 50 Shades of Grey lady. She took a Twilight fan fiction.
Right?
She like I yeah, I mean it's a billion-dollar franchise. I mean she like made like Twilight without vampires. She just made them like in the BDSM world, which she didn't even, accurately represent anyway, according to that community. And then yeah, and then made a crazy amount of money. I mean, I don't know if you've ever watched the films,
Mm.
or
No, not my
read
cup of tea.
the
Um,
books. Yeah, but I mean, I couldn't get through the books, but the films is really interesting because Jamie Dornan is in, he plays the lead guy, right? And I was like, oh, this terrible. This guy, where did they get this guy? And it's so messed up because he's in one of my favorite series, this Irish series, where he plays a serial killer, and he's like a phenomenal actor. Like if you've seen him in anything else, you'd just be like, wow, mind blown. He's fantastic. But
yeah.
you see how like such a shitty script can, I mean, oh my God, in hindsight, I'm like, this poor man had to say these lines and do
Well,
these
I
things.
mean,
And
and they
he's
were,
like,
wasn't it a big hit? Like, I mean,
yeah, I mean, again, it's a $1 billion franchise. I mean, they made a ton of money. It's hugely popular. The books, the films, they made 3 films. I mean, it was like that lady cleaned up. But I mean,
it started from
anybody,
like Twilight,
yeah,
you know?
I mean, anybody in who's a serious writer or a filmmaker will tell you, like, I mean, those movies were like, I don't even know what they got on IMDb. I think it was really bad.
Yeah.
They were just like, fan service basically. And the
They were
books,
trash, but like they were sort of what, you know, I hate to say it, like I feel like the Lifetime crew, like the people that like like those Lifetime movies, like that because it's like the next level up from that, you know?
well, yeah,
And
I mean, it was something like it's like this erotica that was suddenly like, okay, this is okay. Like we can watch this. Like this is acceptable in, society now, I mean, that's not a movie that could have been made
but
however many years ago.
they didn't go like too far or anything with it, right? Like
No, but I mean, I think it's like, I mean, it's so, yeah, just go read, like, listen to Gilbert Godfrey read 50 Shades of Grey.
oh my God.
If you wanted a little taste, because that's like the most pliable way to get it down. Listening to
Oh
Gilbert
my
Godfrey read the
God.
audiobook. I'm not
I
kidding.
can't imagine freaking the parrot from fucking Aladdin
It's
reading
hilarious.
or reading the book that I definitely don't want to read. I have no interest in reading that trash. Um well, I mean,
But
because they're like
I don't remember what we were coming back to, but the point being is that, it doesn't, you never know. And you can write something that is, it's like a TikTok, right? Like you could spend 45 hours editing one TikTok because you're like, this is brilliant, and get, 700 views on it. Or you could like sit there and do something stupid for 30 seconds and, you get 5 million hits. Like there's no rhyme or reason.
that was what Matt Rife said. He had that's how he got viral. Is he did something like he was so excited about posting something that he worked his butt off on and got no views on, and then he just put out one clip of like his show, his comedy, and it just blew up. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he was doing sold out shows, and he gets a lot of crap because he just doesn't care, what people think of him and he says whatever's on his mind and gets him a lot of trouble. But I still like the
Uh-huh.
dude. I think he's hilarious. He gets I don't know if that's okay to say these days or not, but like,
I'll have
yeah,
to check him out. I don't know him.
oh, you don't know him? He's so fun. But he was doing like sold out shows. He was like the literally the Taylor Swift of like after COVID of
Right.
stand-up comedy, and stuff. And I think that was it because people were like right after COVID, everybody wanted to go to stand, to go to shows and do things.
Right.
And Taylor even blew up more than she was before and all these things because, people wanted to do that. And I'm not really a big fan of like stuff now, like selling like Ticketmaster and all these other things because they're way too expensive. Um,
It's great. It's crazy to see anything live nowadays. I
I know.
mean, it's just, yeah. Art isn't for artists anymore.
I mean it's business. Everything's business. And you have to make your money and you have to sign your merch and do all that which I love. I love going to if I go to a show, like a concert, I love to go and get merch from the people.
Absolutely.
and everything. I miss those days, but
Yeah.
really I can't do it anymore. I can't afford it, you know. If I saved up, like my friends and I are planning to do like medieval times at some point.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
have you ever been there?
Hmm.
Okay, so they have one in New Jersey, I'm pretty sure, right?
They do.
And okay. I've never been to one because in Virginia we don't have any, so I had to go up. We're going up to Maryland to go to the one
Hmm.
and everything. I've never been, but like
Oh,
you
it's
pay
so
like
fun.
you pay like 80 to 100 bucks, whatever it is, and you're there for a show. You're not
And
there
you get to
just
eat.
and you get to eat at dinner and a
Yeah.
show. And I love it. Like I love that idea, but you can't do that all the time. You have to save up, you have to, put in some of your money to, and I think
Well, it's
that's
so expensive to make films too. I mean,
mm,
I mean, even or theater, like producing anything, even making a book. Like, I mean, my publisher is, handles that, but I see how much, time and energy and effort goes in, and that's certainly money, and time is money.
and when you have a publisher, it's scary because you you're putting your trust into somebody else's hands that they're not just going to put it out, but going to put it out so that lots and lots of people can see it and they're going to market it and they're going to get it out there and everything. And that's hard. And you have to
Yeah.
market, and I
Yes.
see you
Yes.
marketing, by the way. I
I do.
see
Thank you.
your videos. So going out there, like I just saw that one video you did where you were talking about how it's a great Christmas gift to get, and why and stuff like that. And I mean, you use that probably for TikTok and your Instagram Reels and things like that. And that's what you gotta do, and it's harder than like back in the day when you just had people who do that and that was it, like you didn't need to be a brand, and stuff. And now everybody knows that word, and it kind of cringes me sometimes to hear it because I'm like, really? Like you think you're like a personal brand? Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm supposed to be one, but I don't know. It's weird to me to like think about that.
Well,
So,
it's objectifying yourself in a way, you know, it's frustrating. Like, I'll do a post about the book, right? And it'll be of just the book and it'll get, whatever, the 30 likes or something. And then I'll do a picture of me and it'll get, way more likes. And then I'm like, how do I get me in the book? Same frame. How do I get you to like this as much as you like me? So it's like this weird thing of trying to like make you the book, like incorporate your marketing and your brand, right? Like your social identity on the internet, and then to keep that fresh, to keep producing and creating new content, not boring your audience, keeping them entertained, staying relevant within the social constructs of the social media. I mean, it's just like it's literally a full-time job. That's why people get paid to be influencers. Because I'm like,
right.
yeah, because these people are doing this shit all fucking day. Like it is work. It's work. And being on TikTok all day is like being stuck in some psycho, you know, virtual casino circus. It's nuts.
It's why I don't do crowdfunding anymore because,
Mm,
not much. If I do it, it's silent crowdfunding, which basically looking for investors and stuff. But like
right.
doing crowdfunding is hard because it's literally every day. You have
Yeah.
to not and every hour, every minute, like you have to be talking to and I've got a producing partner who hates uh talking to people, like he doesn't want to go
Mm,
up to his sister and ask for money. And I say, well, I mean, your sister can say no, and that's
right.
wonderful, but we have to ask every single person for money. I have to ask them more than once if I have to do more than one project because
Right.
it's just the way, it's just the way it is, like
Yeah.
that's how you do it. But you have to do that every hour and I had a guy that was trying to help me out, the same guy that said I wasn't I shouldn't be saying mean things about myself or whatever. But he was
Mm,
also telling me I have to be like he was on me all the time, like you need to be posting this, you need to be doing this, you need to be and after a while, it's almost like having like a parent, telling you what to do and just getting
Right.
frustrated with them. Like it's just like I do not want to
Well,
do
and
that.
just frustrated with the process because like you burn out eventually. Like you're like, how much content can I produce before I need a break, you know? And then
Exactly.
you take a break and you're like guilty because you're like, okay, well now people are taking in other people's contents. My numbers are going down. I have to put my numbers back up. And it's just this cycle. And I think, you have to really be able to disconnect from it at a certain point and just be like, okay, it is what it is. Like, yeah, I need to do all these things, but I also need to protect my sanity and my mental
Right.
health as well. And, get my rest and not stress about, TikTok. But it's hard because it's really important. It's become such an important part of, like you said, putting yourself out there and marketing and finding the right doors to open. So.
Hopefully you don't have any nightmares about TikTok or something like
Oh no, I'm sure I'll have nightmares about something much more interesting.
heights, apparently.
Hi, well, that would probably be a visitor, but this has been wonderful, Jonathan. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much
Thank
for
you so
having
much.
me.
And everybody else,
Yes.
definitely check your stuff out. Check out Genie Productions, all the stuff that they're doing. We love them and we really appreciate her coming on. So thank you, Emily.
You're the best. Thanks,
All right.
Jonathan.
Bye,
Okay.
everybody.